What happened to guitar heroes? Why rock stars don't exist anymore? The golden age of guitar heroes, 1950s through the 1990s. Rock guitarists like Hendrix, Page, Clapton, Van Halen, Slash, Satriani, Dimebag, etc. They were larger than life icons who went on to create amazing careers and amazing music legacy that lives on. MTV, magazines, and radio made them household names. Guitar solos were once the centerpiece of hit songs. Now, why did guitar heroes fade? There was a shift in mainstream music. Hip hop, pop, and electronic music now dominate. Attention spans shrank. Solos aren't as cool to the average listener. Now, man, I can even remember my time in Nashville hearing where they were cutting the guitar solos out of country music. Now, if you even casually listen to country music, you will know that, man, it may be the last bastion of guitar playing. Still to this day, if there's a country artist concert, you can imagine, say there's 3 acts on the bill, you're going to probably have at least 6 guitar players over that course of that night, maybe more. Maybe there's a utility guy playing acoustic and there's 2 electric guitar players. And there's no other style of music now that's hugely popular that you could see that. Pop music, guitar is not heavily in it. Now, a lot of these pop artists today are employing guitar players to bring that rock edge, to bring that part of the concert experience, but they're no longer household names. You can't tell me, once Nuno left Rihanna, you can't tell me who's playing guitar for Rihanna now or any of these people. They're not huge names like Van Halen or Slash. Rock stopped evolving. Grunge killed glam, new metal killed grunge, and new rock is a niche genre. There's no more gatekeepers. Social media replaced magazines and record labels, so no single player gets elevated. Are there new guitar heroes? Players like Tim Henson, Mateus Asado, Ichika Nito, Pliny, Yvette Young, and Polyphia are insanely talented. Are they replacing the old school rock gods, or is it just a different era? Social media guitarists versus traditional rock stars, which has a bigger impact? That's a question that you really have to ask. Is it the same when you see somebody playing some, amazing lick, online, but it's like they're just this person sitting by themselves. I think part of the whole fame thing, for me as a kid wanting to play guitar, I heard the screams of the girls, for Elvis or the Beatles, any of these rocks. I saw the reaction that people were having to this music, people getting excited by it. And I don't feel that same excitement when I see somebody sitting alone in a room playing amazing music. It's lost that thing where you saw the audience react. It's lost that emotional pull, that tribe mentality of the audience is what spurned on rock superstardom. If people heard and imagined the millions of homes across the nation back in the 50s, seeing Elvis on that little black and white TV and hearing the girls in the audience and that crowd screaming for Elvis, millions of people saw that. And so that when Elvis went on tour and he played, shows, everywhere he went, he got the same reaction. The same thing happened in the 60s for the Beatles. When people saw the Beatles and all the girls screaming in the audience, when the Beatles went on tour, or when the Beatles showed up at an airport, or wherever the Beatles went, they were mobbed by screaming fans. And you know what? Nobody's doing that for social media stars. Nobody's doing that for social media guitar players. It's just frankly not that exciting. Yes, the playing can be otherworldly. Yes, people are playing incredible stuff. That man, I think, Van Halen or certainly Slash or Jimmy Page, um, you know, none of those guys could probably play a lot of the things that kids are playing now. But also the vehicle for their playing, for the rock stars, the vehicle for them was a great song. And that is the huge elephant in the room, that none of these modern day artists are doing. I can't name one song of any of these guys. Now, Polyphia, they have songs like Goat and different things. And man, Tim Henson is an extremely popular guitar player. He had the longest line at NAMM this past year when he played. But man, uh, it's not mainstream. A song like Jump was as pop friendly and as chart friendly as any song possible. And what was it right in the middle of the song? A guitar solo, right? And so you're not going to have housewives. You're not going to have moms. You're not going to have people like that listening to something like Polyphia. Maybe that's why country music has most of the guitar players now, most of the acts that has the most guitar players and still the most solos. Now, I'm sure they've scaled down. You're not going to have a country song with like an extended solo and multiple solos throughout the song. But, the days of the 70s and putting out an 8-minute song in an opus like Stairway to Heaven, which is a hugely popular song, still to this day, probably generates a lot of plays, probably generates a lot of income. That the song starts from literally the most quiet acoustic thing and takes you on a complete journey till it hits a peak and then ends and resolves. Nobody listens probably to anything that long anymore. Everything has gone back to the days of, in the 50s and early 60s, everything recorded was 2 or 3 minute songs. Probably the perfect time for a song was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That doesn't allow for a lot of time to jam, quote unquote. So the reality is this, man, maybe the market just doesn't allow for these things to exist anymore. Maybe music is just some disposable thing where people are not that invested. I mean, when is the last time anybody that's watching this video now listened to an entire album? I think I'm even guilty of it myself, of just clicking around YouTube and pulling up some song that pops into the top of my head. But it doesn't really lend itself to listening to an entire album. Now, maybe platforms like Spotify and you click on the first song in an album, and maybe people still listen to albums. But man, I can't think of the last time that I listened to an album from top to bottom. Maybe that has a huge part of it, because here's the thing. You might listen to an album by an artist, and maybe the second or third song is not the greatest song, but it has an incredible guitar solo in it. So all of a sudden that becomes one of your favorite songs because you're waiting for that incredible lead break. There were whole bands in the 80s that I would buy the album for the guitar solos. Dokken was one of those bands. I never was a real fan of Don Dokken's voice. I didn't really like some of the elements of the band. I wasn't crazy about the songwriting, but the guitar solos were always these really cool sounding, seemingly impossible to replicate. Just this unique style of playing. George Lynch had his own thing going, man. And, so I would buy a Dokken record solely for the guitar solos. Yeah, of course, I'd have to listen to the songs, and some of the songs I liked more than others, but imagine buying a record just for the guitar solos. Nobody would do that now. Nobody would do that. And that is the reality of the world that we live in now. I don't think there's any bands out there like that now where I go, the songs are okay. Here's the thing. There's a lot of bands out now, whether it's Greta Van Fleet or Dirty Honey, or let me know in the comments if there's any more that I should be checking out. I've heard people say The Warning multiple times, but it doesn't really float my boat. But hey, to each his own. But they are replicating music from the past. They're not improving on it. It's not better than Led Zeppelin. It's not better than Hendrix. Guitar playing is not better. They're not moving the needle further. Now you could argue that a retro act like the Stray Cats in the 80s, I felt they were moving the needle forward. I felt Brian Setzer's playing was more evolved than the 50s guitar playing that it was replicating. And he amped it up a little bit more and added some more flavor to it, better execution. But I don't hear that with the modern bands that are out there today. I don't hear the music actually evolving. I feel like they're mimicking. Hey, let's mimic a Led Zeppelin type band, or hey, let's mimic Aerosmith or some something like that. But I don't feel that they're moving the needle forward, and perhaps that is why rock seems like it's in a stagnant state. It seems like it stopped, just like I said earlier, it stopped evolving. Different things killed off different genres. And maybe they were killed off because those subgenres stopped evolving as well. And, but you go, there's only so far you can go with certain genres. There's only so many bands that can march out there in tight pants and have a blonde lead singer and a hotshot guitar player. After a while, it just becomes a carbon copy, and the copy is never as good as the original thing. So I want everybody to let me know in the comments if there's some guitar heroes today that I'm missing. Let me know who they are in the comments. And if you agree with me, let me know as well. I'd love to hear your feedback. No pun intended.